Okay, guys, this is going to be my review of the Steven Spielberg film, Munich. I really enjoyed it. I think it was very interesting. It was very, because of that Middle Eastern setting. It sets it apart from other spy films. It sets it apart from other films, and also the fact that it's also a period piece based on a real story. I believe it's a real story, but all these aspects make it different from most spy films, make it different from most not biopics, but historical films, sets it apart from most period pieces, so I think all those aspects combined make it very different, where it feels fresh and exciting. And for my money, it's another Spielberg masterpiece. Another great, solid film where, from start to finish, you're on the edge of your seat. Like, what's the next step? What's the next move? What's the next target? As they go deeper into this rabbit hole, but spawning off of Munich. Right from the beginning, this story doesn't waste any beats. Just right from the beginning, showing the Munich massacre, and so I think it's just this idea of it's a spy film, but it's also such an intense thriller. I feel like at the same time, where the missions are so intense, and I love the scene where the bomb malfunctions and he accidentally gets caught in the bomb, and he has to escape, and the gripping shootouts, and the next target, and deal in and asking questions like, are we just as bad as the criminals themselves? What's the next move? And all these different characters and all these different moving pieces add to the suspense and thrilling nature of this film that I was just on the edge of my seat for. And I think kind of the interesting thing I've been noticing about a lot of the reviews I've been doing, I'm always like, this film's great, this film's great, this film's great. The reality is, because I choose to watch films because I watch movie film YouTubers and all that stuff, and I know what they recommend. I know what films they like, and that does not mean I will like them. It just gives you a general sense of what people can generally contend to be good films, and that's why I'm not basing this off, I gotta watch the whole film in the franchise. I have to do this, I have to do that. No, I'm watching films that intrigue me. Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. I will intrigue Lord of the Rings because everybody says they're great. I watched three Lord of the Rings. Then I took a big break before I jumped into the Hobbits because they said they're not on the same level of Lord of the Rings. And I still haven't watched Godfather Part 3. I didn't watch the other two Matrix films. I stopped watching the Aliens films after Alien 3. I didn't watch Alien 3. After Aliens, I knew everybody, didn't like the rest, so I'm like, I'm not going to watch the rest. And so, I'm never this type of guy who, eventually I want to see every Alien film. Or eventually I'll watch the Matrix sequels. Eventually, yes, I'll get done watching Godfather Part 3. But I'm not going to fast track. You know what I mean? I'm not going to fast track to me watching Godfather Part 3. But this has nothing to do with Munich. Munich, I really enjoyed. Same with so many films during quarantine. But what can you say? It's a Spielberg film. I've yet to see a bad Spielberg film. And I was bummed about? I had watched 30 minutes of Minority Report, and then it just got taken off of Netflix, a few months ago. And so, I've watched literally the first 30 minutes of Minority Report, and I know it's in Hulu, but it's premium subscription. I have HBO Max, and I just don't think premium. You have Hulu, and then you're premium. So I'm bummed out about that. And and what else? Another Spielberg film, Amistad, which gets also high praise, was also on Hulu. And Lincoln, I've been wanting to watch because Abraham Lincoln is my favorite president, and so and I think the time period of the Civil War and Spielberg is all these pieces are great. But I contend Lincoln is probably the Spielberg film that I probably want to. You see, it's either there's so many. Catch Me If You Can, Lincoln, Amistad, Minority Report, Close Encounters. There's so many. Because I say Spielberg is my favorite director because the thing about Spielberg is he produces so many films that I've practically seen only about half of his films. Yet that there's so many, you know what I mean? From the Indiana Jones film. See, the only bad film of his that I've even seen is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I don't know how much of it was Spielberg or George Lucas. You know what I mean? Because George Lucas is extremely prone to making mistakes, and it does give me this concern about George Lucas, is how much of the original Star Wars films was a fluke, or B, taken from Doom. You know what I mean? And with the prequels, I'm just like, okay, George Lucas, you're giving completely free ground to do whatever you want. Can you tell a great story? A, he didn't really make a great Star Wars story. B, he just didn't make that great of a story execution-wise. So, I think George Lucas is a fantastic storyteller, but the execution is not there. Because I contend, if I told someone what the prequels are about, they'd be like, oh my god, that's great. The story is not bad. It's the execution. It's the dialogue. It's the directing. And that's the thing, is if George Lucas gave his ideas in a Kevin Feige type role, where he gives it to real screenwriters, to real directors, prequels could be great. And I really enjoy, it's funny how this Munich review can turn into talking about George Lucas. But my point is this film was another knock out of the park for Steven Spielberg, and yet it keeps what I'm saying. It's so different from a Saving Private Ryan, from a Jurassic Park, from an Indiana Jones, from a biopic like Lincoln, from you know what I mean. That's why I think Steven Spielberg is uncomparable to any other director, because he's not the best at gangster films. He's not the best at sci-fi. He's not the best at action. He's not the best at adventure. He's not the best at horror. He's not the best at biopics, because he doesn't do enough of each category. He'll do an action adventure franchise with the Indiana Jones. He'll do a couple biopics with Lincoln, and he'll do war films with Saving Private Ryan, and then he'll do cool sci-fi films with Minority Report, Close Encounters, and E.T. and Ready Player One, and then he'll dabble into crazy action adventure again with Jurassic Park, but he wants to go and do another great Oscar contending biopic. Oh, let's just do The Post, and he's just so diverse. You know what I mean? Where you look at some directors, they're like, he's the like for example, you could say the X directors. Oh yeah, he's the best at westerns. Oh yeah, he's the best at gangster. Oh yeah, he's the best at psychological thrillers. But Steven Spielberg is not the best in any category. He's the collective best at all around, because he can make a gangster film and it'd be great. He can make a war film and it could be great. He can make a spy Middle Eastern film and that can be great, and this and this and that. And I think that's what separates Steven Spielberg from many other directors. Not saying they're great, but that's just what I think. Because Martin Scorsese is great, and Francis Ford Coppola is great, and they're all great, but great at their genre. And you would be, if I did, and that's the thing about Spielberg, is there's two things about Spielberg, is you can watch Munich, then you can watch Jurassic Park without knowing Steven Spielberg directed it, and you wouldn't know Steven Spielberg directed both. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't guess that the same person who directed Jurassic Park directed Lincoln. You wouldn't guess the same guy who directed Jurassic Park did Indiana Jones. Well, you may Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park, but maybe Indiana Jones and E.T. same director, and E.T. and Jaws same director. You wouldn't guess that. But yet when they tell you, oh yeah, they're both Steven Spielberg films, you're not surprised. You do know why you're not surprised? When you figure out that Jaws and Jurassic Park, two completely, not Jurassic Park and Jaws and E.T. They're two different films, so you wouldn't know after you watch it that they're by the same director in Steven Spielberg. But after someone tells you that, you're not surprised. You know why? Because it's great. It's two great films, so you're like, you don't expect nothing less. So, that's kind of my thoughts on Munich. It's funny how I'm such a chatty person, and In the sense that once I start talking about films, I'll like go down this rabbit hole. Like it started me talking about Munich to frickin' the prequel, the Star Wars prequels. You know, so it's crazy. Stay tuned for videos coming at you.